Are you ready for this?
I've been born ready for this.
All right, welcome to Techsplanation 2.0, the airplane mode. This is the one you put on your phone and you take on the flight with you so you can watch it instead of watching whatever they're playing on the planes these days. All right, today we got Jordan Winkelman from Quantum in studio with us. He's a holdover from a previous episode. Thanks for staying long.
You're very welcome.
Appreciate that. All right, so we talked recently about cloud storage, about LTO, and kind of how people can get themselves from under the Amazon thumb. But you dropped a nugget in there called Myriad.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we're gonna jump into Myriad. I want to know what it is. I want the audience to understand it. Before they do, though, I think so. To help understand, tell me a little about what you're doing at Quantum these days. What your role is. What you're doing for Quantum.
So I'm the field solutions CTO. What that means is I work with the field teams and sales to help build broader solutions where sometimes Quantum might not have the complete package, and sometimes you need to fill the gap or bring in the glue to connect things together. So I'm kind of the nerd half of the alliances group who works with our technical partners, validates what works, what doesn't work, tries to develop business relationships. For example, with our Atempo Solutions bundle, I spearheaded that whole thing and have helped bring that as a solution to the market, the field solutions brought by the teams saying, this is what we need to finish the deal and basically make it so that we can provide the full scale solution for the customer.
So you sort of come up with the crazy ideas.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Right. The insane workflows.
Well, it helps to be a bit insane.
Well, yeah, that does help.
Yeah.
We're all insane here. I mean, when you start talking about like the people with petabytes of problem,
mm-hmm.
right? That's sort of where it's like, bring in Jordan.
It's complex issues. Something a little out of the norm. An example of one of the things that I'm working on right now with our AI technologies with CatDV. Well, we have these hyperconverged servers that we focused on video surveillance, but they have a shared storage layer. They run VMware. You can stick GPUs in them. So now there are AI servers and our CatDV worker nodes and server nodes. So now we're able to bring in the compute infrastructure. We're able to bring in the asset manager, and we've always been able to bring in the high performance or colder storage technologies.
Wrap it all up in a single bundle.
Exactly.
Nice.
Give the vertical stack.
In a vertical stack.
Mm-hmm.
Positioned around media entertainment applications using CatDV. Or
for this particular market, yes. But the same types of technologies can be used for, what do they call them? Smart cities, can be used for analytics in the video surveillance market that these systems were actually developed for. They can be used for anything for GPU transcoding and acceleration. They can be used for VDI. It's VMware.
So you're sort of upstream of what Quantum is doing or where they're headed, saying, hey guys, we can reposition some of this to do more. We could move this product over here and look what we can achieve.
I take our existing products and think about ways to expand their use cases and how we can use them for other things. And if it means changing the name of something so that it can be marketed more broadly applicable, I will do the internal work to develop the program and work with the appropriate parties, get it approved, and then work with marketing to get that delivered to customers and channel to understand what it is we're selling.
How big's your toy lab?
Getting much larger by the day. I have a stack of Pivot 3 servers, a bunch of GPUs. We have an ActiveScale. We have an F2000 attached Axelis. We have a Myriad. We have giant tape libraries. We have ActiveScale cold storage. It's actually a lot of fun to have a giant lab.
I was waiting for that smile too. I've got more toys than you do.
That's probably not true, but they're expensive toys, that's for sure.
Yeah, yours draws a lot more power than mine do.
But I mean, ultimately, thank you for bringing up the toy lab. It's available to help us really do that final testing of Myriad before it gets into the market and do the testing and validation with third parties. So again, I'm the guy who tests the third-party technologies and validates that, yeah, I think we should partner with them and we should do a solutions brief and help our channel, understand what it is that this thing does and explain it to the customers.
Okay, you mentioned Myriad. So in a nutshell, what in the world is Myriad?
Myriad.
And it doesn't have to be in a nutshell. It can be in a Cracker Jack box. I mean, either way. What is this
all
thing?
flash file and object storage software platform.
And how does that differentiate from the F2000? That's all flash.
Well, it's an object store, first and foremost.
Ah.
It uses a key value store that is what we call, or it's a redirect on write key value store. That means inherently everything that happens on the storage is a snapshot. Wait, Quantum said something about a snapshot and clones and asynchronous snapshot-based replication and quotas and file system analytics and scale out nodal redundancy.
That doesn't sound like traditional StoreNext.
It has nothing to do with StoreNext.
Okay, so this is a completely new, big time departure from what we've always viewed Quantum as.
Yes, absolutely. So if you look at StoreNext, it's really focused around large unstructured data and streaming media. Extremely low latency, but extremely high bandwidth and performance. Really focused on big video files and streaming media. It doesn't do so well in environments with billions of little tiny files, which is artificial intelligence, which is genomic sequencing. It's electronic design automation for semiconductor manufacturing. So when you're dealing with millions, billions, even trillions of little files, you need a system that was designed to work for those workflows and not a system that has grown over the course of decades and become a very robust, mature platform for its use case. So we're taking Myriad and we're attacking the other 95% of the market that isn't media and entertainment, financial services, artificial intelligence for whatever use case, medical imaging, things that are not what you would expect to be using StoreNext for. But in the media and entertainment world, we're really using it for visual effects. So
why visual effects? What is their problem? How does their problem fall into that?
Well, large render farms are typically NFS attached. They don't need high bandwidth. They need lots of IOPS. So they're dealing with lots of models. They're reading and writing to the same frame-based image. And so there's a lot higher of an IOP workload associated with it. You don't really care about the bandwidth so much because you read the file, it's running in memory, it then gets rendered in a very slow write process. But you might have hundreds or dozens or even thousands of compute cores that are working against that storage. And this is a more parallelized platform that can allow, I've seen hundreds of thousands of operations per second in very, very preliminary testing. It's like 5 times more operations per second than what StoreNext can do. And this is pre-GA software at this point still. So we're still tweaking and tuning, and it's getting faster and faster and faster. But it's so much faster than StoreNext with small files that it's pretty amazing. Random IO being pure flash, it's never going to have a hard drive associated with it. But it is an object store. We're still going back to the cloud storage. It is a cloud product. We designed it with no proprietary storage or anything in the system. We're using off-the-shelf servers. We're using the same exact servers that a customer would buy. They, in fact, don't even ship with software because we deploy the software on-premise. We only have one device that ships with software, the deployment node. So if you know StoreNext and you know what the implementations look like, it can be complex. It can be time-consuming. This system stands itself up in 30 minutes.
Does it rack itself yet? Because that would be
no,
cool.
no, it doesn't.
All right.
After you've put it in a rack, it stands itself up.
Fair enough.
When you want to expand it, you put a server in the rack, you cable it up, and you turn it on. And it makes it bigger, and it makes it faster, and it does it for you.
So the more you give it in terms of nodes or storage base, the faster it can get.
And the more space efficient it gets. So if you start with
because it's object store.
Because it's object store, but it also has something called dynamic N+M erasure coding, and that's a mouthful. When you're dealing with hard drive based object stores, the last thing you want to do is a rebalance. It's considered an unnatural act in a hard drive based object store that might be petabytes of data, because hard drives are about bandwidth, not about IOPS. Rebuilding objects is about IOPS. So what you wouldn't want to do with a hard drive based object store, you gladly do with an NVMe based one, because you have millions of IOPS per node. So the things that you ran from in fear and terror, you run towards, because now I might scale from 460 terabytes usable in the 5-node system to 1.2 petabytes in the 10-node system. So that's more than twice as the capacity, And that's because the erasure code gets more efficient as it gets bigger.
The bigger it gets.
Yep.
This is a really big departure from traditional StoreNext. Why
Absolutely.
would Quantum want to do this? What's the reasoning behind this?
Well, it's going after the enterprise storage market. It's going after the stuff that people don't traditionally think of with Quantum. We're trying to expand our addressable market. And, if you're looking for these other markets, you have to design a system specifically for the use cases that they have.
So if you're a dealer selling brand Y that does this already, you've now got the opportunity to bring Quantum in and say, okay, we've got a new player on the space.
And we're able to do similar workloads, similar performance to systems that are what we're comparing ourselves to, up to 10x the number of drives and a full rack of hardware. And we're meeting the same, performance metrics in a 8-node system, and 3 of the nodes are network switches.
So in M&E, is there much use case outside of the VFX space, outside of animation in the big render farms?
Depends on the business. One of the other key use cases is high performance recovery of data. So if you think about like transactional workloads, databases, things that bad actors are trying to ransomware and to encrypt for, they got to go after you and ransom your data. This is extremely fast recoveries in the several gigabytes per second range. And the more devices you have accessing it and reading the data, you can now recover your Oracle database running your whatever tool that's part of your workflow in seconds or minutes as opposed to hours to days.
So in a ransomware environment or an environment where we're spinning things back up, this could have a key position in restoring your environment.
Oh, did I forget that it deduplicates data by default? Yeah.
Did not mention that earlier.
Yeah. You can't turn it off because
it's native to the
way the key value store works is we only write unique data to the system. Every block that comes in gets checksummed, 128-bit. We validate whether that block is unique or not. If it's unique, we write it into the system. If it's not, we point at the existing location. This is a very high performance dedupe. It's going all to flash. We're storing all the metadata for the dedupe pool, typically in RAM. And I've seen anywhere from 1.3 to 1 reduction on compressed video. How about that? And over 2 to 1 on your traditional enterprise data. And if you're backing up virtual machines, I've seen as much as 10 to 15 to 1 because of the commonality from backup to backup in virtual machines.
Okay, so help me. So we got dealers out there in the ether that are coming at this, maybe understanding this completely, maybe not. What are they looking for in their client base that's going to help them understand? Do I go with StoreNext or do I go with Myriad? Like what can we arm them with today in terms of questions or topology? Obviously we can say, look, if your client's doing a large render farm, we need to start talking about Myriad in that space. What other things should they be looking for?
So StoreNext can start as small as 25 grand with an H4000 Essential. StoreNext can get really expensive as it gets big. This starts reasonably pricey because of the target market and what it's actually being used for. Artificial intelligence requires some of the most highest performance stuff on the market. And when it's all flash from top to bottom and maybe petabytes, it can be somewhat expensive. StoreNext can be hard drive based, and you can get extreme bandwidth with a small number of hard drives in StoreNext. So for the right use case, video, it's going to be less costly to do a pure video workflow on a hard drive or a flash-based StoreNext system than it is on a Myriad system. And in today's incarnation, Myriad is only a NAS. We're going to add S3, and we're going to eventually make it a parallel client, much like StoreNext. And at that point, if you have the needs for tens to hundreds of gigabytes per second of bandwidth, then Myriad might be the right use case.
So you mentioned AI back there. So somebody who's building a big AI farm at this point, who is starting to bring their AI functionality out of the cloud, this would be the underpinning to the data for all those GPU servers.
Yeah, but you know what? I might also put it in the cloud. Remember how I said there's nothing proprietary in it whatsoever. There are a number of vendors who are making sort of similar products that can't put them in the cloud of any variety because they do require particular hardware. Whole point of the cloud is to be off the shelf, nothing proprietary whatsoever. So we designed Myriad to be able to use the appropriate Kubernetes of each of the clouds to be able to deploy in the most native format of that cloud. So Amazon will be EKS, Microsoft will be whatever they call theirs, Google will be whatever they call theirs. And we have the flexibility of taking this and running it in any cloud in a very elastic fashion. So one of the really positive things about the cloud, especially in compute, is that I can have my minimal amount of virtual machines running for my low end, my low kind of workload. I'll use sports teams, streaming on Sunday. You need lots and lots and lots of virtual machines to handle all of the streaming assets.
Yep.
With drug discovery, I might want to spin up 10,000 nodes in the cloud with thousands and thousands and thousands of cores. I want to spin that up and I want to spin that down. And because Myriad can remove capacity without even doing anything, you just pull the nodes out, it'll rebalance in real time. The same thing applies in the public cloud. So what I've been told by certain, drug manufacturers is, I'm willing to spend a fortune in the cloud for a week if it brings my drug to market even a week faster. It makes me another $1 billion. So if you have the right use case where it makes sense to do a burst workload in the cloud, you might have an on-premise a Myriad where you're doing your on-premise work, and then use the tools that we're developing for putting the data in the place that it needs to be when it needs to be there, do that burst workflow in the cloud, and then bring it back on-prem for your data preservation or for your more traditional daily workload without having to incur those significant cloud costs when you scale up an all NVMe EC2 instance-based AWS cluster.
Jordan, when's Myriad gonna, when do I put this in somebody's office? Is this coming soon? Is this out now?
General availability is currently scheduled for September 14th. We're looking for early access customers right now. So if you have somebody out there that feels like it might be a good fit for a business that, has the ability to afford an all-flash system that starts at 0.5 petabyte of usable capacity, that's not going to be everybody.
Yeah.
That's just the reality. But if you have somebody who has the need for a system like this, come talk to us. We're looking for early access. I don't want to call them beta customers, but those that want to participate with and help develop the platform for their particular needs. I hate to say it, but money talks. And we're more than happy to work with those early customers to make things exactly what they need it to be while we make it what it needs to be for our existing customer base.
General audience.
But it allows us to go into markets that we haven't traditionally been in.
Nice.
Our first customer is a drug manufacturer that is a startup that it's super exciting what they're doing with the system. And it's just exciting to be looking in areas where traditionally we just haven't had a product that meets the needs.
No, and I think, so many of our customers think of Quantum as media entertainment. This really starts to expand you guys to say, look, we can do surveillance, we can do generalized backup on LTO. We got the media entertainment bug kind of covered. Now you can pivot out to these genomics, life sciences types environments in a really interesting way.
Do you know any other storage companies? And I say storage companies very specifically that have a portfolio as broad as Quantum.
Not at this point, no.
There's a lot of server vendors that have a large storage portfolio, but we're a storage focused company that isn't doing storage also. We're doing servers also to sell our storage. So that's our primary focus, is your data and helping you protect and do things to enrich your data.
Nice. Jordan, always a blast having you on.
Same.
Thank you for making the trek up here. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
If you want to know more about Quantum, obviously hit their website, call your JB&A team. They can get you connected. If you have a client who sounds like, could use a 0.5 petabyte of really, really fast storage with, I think it's time to give Jordan a call, because he'd be the one I would talk to over there. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
We're going to call this episode of Techsplanation, the airplane mode, over and out.
Thanks, Nick.
Appreciate it.